The awakening. The emergency alarms wailed across the command center as I watched our last defensive battleship crumble into fragments against the night sky. Its destruction painted the darkness with brief, terrible light. Another funeral pyre for the brave souls who had fought to protect our world. Status report, I demanded, my voice steadier than my heart's. Commander Eltrix, his scaled skin pale with exhaustion, gestured to the holographic display. The Voratian fleet has breached our orbital defenses, Commander Varine. They'll begin planetary bombardment within 6 hours. I stared at the projection, watching the swarm of enemy vessels descend toward Crelia like hungry predators. After 3 cycles of relentless war, our once mighty civilization was on the brink of extinction. The Voratians had methodically destroyed our colonies, our fleets, and now they were coming for our homeworld. Options, I asked, though I already knew the answer. General Zix, our most decorated military leader, shook her head. Conventional options? None. We've exhausted our military resources. The civilian evacuation is only at 20% capacity. Even with all available ships, we can't save more than 1/3 of our population. The command room fell silent. 6 billion Krelians would die when the Voratian fleet arrived, unless we found a miracle. Then we turned to the unconventional, I said. Summon the High Scholar to the war chamber immediately. Minutes later, High Scholar Nivix shuffled into the room, clutching an ancient data crystal in his trembling hands. His eyes, augmented with cybernetic lenses, whirred as they focused on me. You've requested the Forbidden Archives, he stated, his voice a dry whisper. I nodded. The old texts speak of a species that even the Voratians feared, a species so dangerous that the ancient coalition erased them from galactic records. Humans, Nivix murmured, the word itself seeming to darken the room. Commander Varine, what you suggest is our only hope, I interrupted. The texts claimed they possessed technology and abilities beyond any known species. They were warriors without equal, scientists without limitation, and survivors against impossible odds. General Zix stepped forward. These are myths, Commander. Stories to frighten younglings. No, Nivix said, inserting the crystal into the central console. Not myths. History, deliberately buried. The holographic display flickered, replacing the grim imagery of our impending doom with ancient texts and fragmented images. The text was in Old Krelian, the images blurry and distorted, but unmistakable, bipedal beings with no scales, no chitinous armor, no obvious physical advantages, yet standing triumphant over mountains of advanced weaponry. The ancient coalition feared them not for their weapons, but for their adaptability, Nivix explained. Where other species specialized over millions of years, humans remained generalists. They could survive in almost any environment, learn any skill, and most terrifyingly, they could innovate like no other species. If they were so formidable, how were they defeated? Asked Eltrix. Nivix adjusted his lenses. They weren't. According to these fragments, humans isolated themselves after a series of conflicts with the coalition. They retreated to an undisclosed sector of space and erected barriers that no technology could penetrate. Some texts suggest they evolved beyond physical form. Others claim they entered a state of suspended animation, waiting for a time when the galaxy would need them again. And these texts include a way to contact them. I asked, hope kindling in my chest for the first time in months. Not contact, Nivix corrected. Summon. The ancient Krelians developed a dimensional beacon that could theoretically pierce whatever barriers the humans established. General Zix's posture stiffened. This is madness. We would summon an unknown entity of potentially catastrophic power in our moment of greatest vulnerability. Do you see another option? I challenged. We face extinction, General. We've already lost. The debate raged for another hour as the Voratian fleet drew closer. Eventually, with extinction mere hours away, even the most skeptical agreed. we would attempt the summoning. Deep beneath the capital city lay the ancient archives, a vast complex of knowledge preserved from before our technological age. Nevix led us to a sealed chamber that hadn't been opened in millennia. The security system responded to his genetic signature, recognizing him as a descendant of the original archivists. The chamber's centerpiece was a circular platform inscribed with symbols none of us recognized. Surrounding it were 7 crystalline pillars, each humming with dormant energy. The summoning requires a sacrifice, Nevix said grimly. Not of life, but of memory. 7 participants must surrender a significant memory to fuel the dimensional breach. I'll go first, I volunteered without hesitation. One by one, we stepped forward. Myself, Nevix, General Zix, Commander Eltrix, and 3 other high-ranking officials. We placed our hands on the pillars, and the pain was instantaneous. I felt the memory being extracted, my bonding day with my life partner, now gone forever. As the pillar glowed with brilliant blue light, when all 7 pillars blazed with energy, Nevix began the incantation. The ancient words felt wrong in my mouth, as if they belonged to a reality that rejected our own. The air in the chamber grew heavy, difficult to breathe. The symbols on the platform ignited with white fire that cast no heat. Then reality tore. There's no other way to describe it. The space above the platform simply ripped like fabric under too much tension. Beyond the tear was nothing, not darkness, not light, but a complete absence that hurt to look at. And then someone stepped through. The tear sealed behind the figure, leaving us in stunned silence. Standing before us was a being unlike any I had seen before. Bipedal, hairless except for the top of its head, with skin the color of pale sand. She wore no protective gear, just simple garments of black that contrasted with her brown eyes. Eyes that surveyed us with calculating intelligence. You called, she said, her voice somehow perfectly understandable despite speaking no language I recognized. I'm Maya, and you're in trouble. How do you? I began. Know your language. Know you're in trouble. She smiled, revealing flat teeth unsuited for combat. The summoning shares information both ways. I know you're Krillians. I know the Voratians are about to glass your planet. And I know you've called me as a last resort. General Zix stepped forward, her hand instinctively near her weapon. What are you capable of, human? More than you can imagine, and less than I once was, Maya replied cryptically. I'm not the armada you were hoping for. I'm just one human. The text spoke of great power, Nevix said, disappointment evident in his voice. They weren't wrong. Maya walked around the chamber, examining the ancient technology with casual interest. But first, let's deal with your immediate problem. The Voratian flagship. It'll be approaching low orbit about now, yes. A deafening boom shook the entire complex, sending dust raining from the ceiling. The bombardment had begun. Take me to your command center, Maya ordered with such natural authority that none of us questioned it. Back in the command center, chaos reigned. The first Voratian salvos had targeted our remaining defense systems. Casualties were mounting, and panic was spreading through the civilian population. Maya observed the holographic display of the battle with narrowed eyes. Typical Voratian attack pattern. They haven't evolved much in 10,000 years. She reached into a small pouch at her waist and removed a metallic sphere no larger than my palm. This will buy us time. What is it? I asked. A reminder of why humans were feared, she said, placing the sphere on the command console. It melded with our technology instantly, interfaces adapting and connecting without any input from Maya. The sphere projected a new holographic overlay, complex calculations and schematics that made no sense to me, but seemed to delight Maya. She manipulated the projection with graceful hand movements, her fingers dancing through the light. There, she said finally. Now we wait. We didn't have to wait long. Within minutes, the Voratian bombardments ceased. The holographic display showed their ships stopping in position, weapons systems powering down. What did you do? General Zix demanded. I infected their network with a quantum virus, Maya explained casually. It's rewriting their navigation and weapon systems. They can still communicate, but they can't move or fire. Impossible, Commander Eltrix breathed. Their systems are organic-mechanical hybrids, specifically designed to resist cyber attacks. Maya smiled again, but this time there was something predatory in it. Humans invented those hybrids, Commander. We also invented their weaknesses. A communication request flashed on our screens from the Voratian flagship. With a nod from me, the connection opened, revealing the insectoid face of Supreme Commander Vexthar, mandibles clicking in barely controlled rage. What trickery is this, Krelian vermin? He hissed. I started to respond, but Maya stepped into view of the transmission. No trickery, Supreme Commander. Just a conversation long overdue. The effect was immediate and shocking. Vexthar physically recoiled, his compound eyes widening in what could only be described as terror. Impossible, he whispered. Your kind was confined beyond the barrier. The treaty is void the moment you threatened a developing civilization, Maya interrupted. Stand down your forces, Vexthar. Return to your territory. The Krelians are now under human protection. The Voratian commander's mandibles twitched in what I recognized as their species' equivalent of nervous calculation. One human can it. Would you like me to demonstrate what one human can do? Maya's voice remained pleasant, but something in her tone made even me shiver. I've only disabled your ships. I could have destroyed them. I still can. As if to emphasize her point, one of the smallest Voratian vessels suddenly imploded, collapsing into itself until nothing remained but scattered particles. That was uninhabited, Maya noted. The next won't be. You have 1 hour to retreat beyond the Krelian system boundary. The transmission cut off. Maya turned to face us, her expression serious. They'll leave, she stated with absolute certainty. But they'll be back with reinforcements. We have work to do. And for the first time since the war began, I felt something beyond desperation, something I had almost forgotten. Hope. The reckoning. They fear you, I said as we watched the Voratian fleet retreat from Krelian space, an entire armada, terrified of a single human. Maya's gaze remained fixed on the holographic display. They fear what I represent. Humans were problematic for the established order of the ancient galaxy. How? General Zix asked, her earlier skepticism replaced with cautious respect. Imagine a species that evolved on a death world. Maya explained. A planet with extreme temperature variations, constant natural disasters, diverse predators, and countless diseases. We didn't evolve specialized adaptations like your thermal regulation scales or the Voratians' hive mind efficiency. Instead, we developed something more dangerous. Adaptability itself. She paced the command center, studying our technology with casual interest. While other species were perfecting single evolutionary advantages, we became adequate at everything. Not the strongest, fastest, or most technologically advanced, but capable of learning, improvising, and overcoming any obstacle through sheer stubborn determination. The texts called humans cosmic wild cards. Nevix added. Unpredictable and dangerous. Maya nodded. The established species of the galaxy had achieved a certain equilibrium. Wars were fought according to predictable patterns. Technological development followed expected trajectories. Then humans arrived, breaking rules, creating unpredictable technologies, forming alliances that defied strategic logic, and fighting with tactics no simulation could predict. And now you're the last, I asked. No, Maya's expression softened. We're still out there, beyond the barrier. I'm just an emissary, a limited projection of human consciousness sent in response to your summoning. This revelation stunned us into silence. If this limited projection could disable an entire fleet with a single device, what could an army of full humans accomplish? The Voratians will return, Commander Eltrix warned, interrupting my thoughts. We estimate they'll bring 3 times their previous force. Then we have work to do, Maya replied. I can't summon human reinforcements. The treaty forbids direct intervention except in specific circumstances, but I can teach you how to fight them. Over the next 3 days, Maya transformed our military. She reviewed our technology, identifying weaknesses we never knew existed and improvements we never imagined possible. She taught our engineers how to modify our defensive systems, making them unpredictable and adaptive. Most importantly, she changed how we thought about warfare. Voracians fight by overwhelming force and rigid hierarchical command, she explained during a strategy session. Their strength is coordination, but their weakness is initiative. Individual Voracian soldiers are incapable of adapting when their command structure breaks down. We've noticed this, General Zix confirmed, but we lack the numbers to exploit it. Numbers are irrelevant, Maya said, dismissing our greatest concern with a wave of her hand. Voracians expect conventional responses. Give them the unexpected. When they attack, don't defend. Attack elsewhere. When they advance, don't retreat. Circle behind them. Never do what they predict. She spent hours working with our pilots, teaching them maneuvers that seemed to defy physics. She trained our ground forces in asymmetrical tactics that had never been used in our part of the galaxy. She even worked with civilian volunteers, organizing them into support networks that could rapidly adapt to changing battlefield conditions. On the 5th day, our long-range sensors detected the Voracian reinforcements, a massive armada that darkened the scans with its sheer size. 500 capital ships, Commander Eltrix reported grimly. Over 2,000 support vessels. They'll reach our system in 12 hours. I expected fear to return, but strangely, it didn't. Maya's confidence had infected us all. Perfect, she said, studying the incoming fleet's formation. They're arranged exactly as I predicted. She activated the central holotable, displaying a complex battle plan that our strategists had been developing under her guidance. Remember, they expect you to defend your homeworld at all costs. That's where we'll surprise them. The plan was audacious. While maintaining a minimal defensive screen around Krylia, we would deploy our main forces in hit-and-run attacks against the Voracian supply lines and communication relays. Small, agile squadrons would strike simultaneously across multiple vectors, creating the illusion of a much larger force. And what will you do? I asked Maya, who had been vague about her own role in the coming battle. I'll introduce myself to their supreme commander, she said with a smile that made even General Zix uncomfortable. When the Voracian armada entered our system, they found exactly what they expected: a desperate final defensive line around our homeworld. Their supreme commander, overconfident after his force's long string of victories, launched a textbook assault. That's when Maya's plan unfolded. As the main Voracian force engaged our defensive screen, our strike teams emerged from hiding places throughout the system, inside hollowed-out asteroids, beneath the surfaces of moons, and from the blinding corona of our sun. They attacked with a ferocity and precision the Voracians had never encountered from us before. Our ships executed impossible maneuvers, appearing where sensors indicated they couldn't possibly be. Our weapons, modified according to Maya's specifications, bypassed Voracian shields that had previously been impenetrable. From the command center, I watched with growing amazement as the massive Voracian advantage began to crumble. Their rigid command structure couldn't adapt to our unpredictable attacks. When their formations broke, individual ships became disorganized, firing at shadows and sometimes even at each other. It's working, Navix whispered in awe. Of course it is, Maya replied. Now for the final touch. She activated her communication device, broadcasting on all frequencies. Attention Voracian Armada. This is Maya, human emissary. Your situation has become untenable. Surrender or be destroyed. The response came immediately, a thunderous refusal from Supreme Commander Vexthar himself. We do not surrender to lesser species. The Voracian Empire will cleanse this system of all life before retreating. Maya sighed, appearing genuinely disappointed. "I offered you a choice." She turned to me. "Commander Vereen, I need a ship." "For what purpose?" I asked. "To end this," she said simply. Against the protests of my advisors, I authorized a small stealth vessel for Maya's use. We watched on our tracking systems as she piloted it directly toward the Voratian flagship, a massive hive-shaped vessel at the center of their formation. "She's on a suicide mission," General Zix observed with newfound respect. But Maya's ship didn't crash into the flagship. Instead, it simply docked, unopposed, as if the Voratian defenses didn't even register its presence. For 30 minutes, nothing happened. Our battle continued around the system, increasingly favoring our forces as the Voratian command structure deteriorated into chaos. Then, something remarkable occurred. The Voratian flagship began broadcasting on all frequencies, not in their language, but in ours. "This is Supreme Commander Vexthar of the Voratian Empire." The message began, the insectoid voice subdued. "I hereby order all Voratian forces to cease hostilities and withdraw from Krelian space immediately. The Krelian civilization is now recognized as sovereign and inviolable under the ancient compact." Stunned silence fell across our command center. On our screens, we watched as Voratian ships disengaged from combat and began retreating in perfect formation. Hours later, Maya returned to our homeworld. She looked exactly the same, not a hair out of place, as if she'd merely gone for a brief walk rather than somehow forcing the surrender of the most aggressive empire in our region of space. "What did you do?" I finally asked when she joined us in the command center. "I showed him what humans truly are," she replied. "Not through violence, but through understanding." I connected directly with his neural network and shared memories, Earth's history, our wars, our triumphs, our capacity for both terrible destruction and remarkable compassion. "And that was enough to make him retreat?" General Zix asked incredulously. Maya smiled. "I also demonstrated what would happen if they continued this war. Humans have a particular talent for running simulations, showing potential futures with such clarity that they feel real." Supreme Commander Vexthar experienced, in perfect detail, the complete annihilation of his species if they persisted in their aggression. "A bluff," I suggested. "Perhaps," Maya conceded, "but one backed by historical precedent. The ancient compact was created for a reason, Commander. Some boundaries should not be crossed." In the days that followed, we began rebuilding. The Voratian Empire, true to their forced promise, opened diplomatic channels. Reparations were discussed. Boundaries were redrawn. For the first time in generations, it seemed peace might be possible. On the 7th day after the battle, Maya announced she would be leaving. "My purpose here is complete," she told me as we stood in the ancient chamber where she had first appeared. "The summoning only permits temporary intervention." "Will we see humans again?" I asked. "That depends on you," she replied. "The galaxy is evolving. Old powers are fading, new alliances forming. Perhaps it's time for humans to return more fully to galactic affairs." "I hope so," I said sincerely. "We owe you everything." Maya smiled. "You owe us nothing, but remember what you learned. Not our technology or tactics, but our perspective. The greatest strength isn't in superior weapons or numbers, but in adaptability, the willingness to see beyond conventional wisdom and imagine new possibilities." She stepped onto the ancient platform, which began to glow without any activation from us. "One more thing," she said as light began to envelop her form. "The next time you face an impossible situation, remember this: humans never truly believe in the impossible. We just haven't found the solution yet." With that, she was gone, vanished in a flash of light that left the chamber feeling strangely empty. But we were not the same civilization she had found. Across our world, people spoke of the human who had saved us, of the lessons she had taught, of the potential she had awakened within us. We had summoned a human out of desperate fear. We were left with something far more valuable: hope and a new way of seeing the universe. As I walked from the ancient chamber for the final time, I remembered Maya's words about adaptability and imagination. The Kralians had always been a cautious species, bound by tradition and established knowledge. Perhaps it was time for us to become a little more human.